Abba Yahuwah, I just want to praise you and I just want to thank you, Father. I thank you, my Father, that we are in such a critical hour and a critical time. And that which you are doing in this hour is beyond our understanding, because you are the one that is wanting to be able to reveal yourself to us in this time of where we are on this journey of counting the Omer. And as we are in the process of counting the Omer, and as we are working through the book of Jeremiah, where we understand how Israel, how Judah had to go into Babylon, how they went into captivity, and why did they go into captivity. It's so important for us to understand that history will repeat itself. We cannot continue to rebel and rebel and rebel against you, and that history is not going to repeat itself. Because that which you have already spoken through the mouth of the prophets shall surely come to pass. And as we work through this book of First Esdras, and as we look at that which you did through normal people, people that were not these great people that had great names, they were people that today, when you speak about people in the Bible, you're not going to speak about a man called Ezra, or you're not going to speak about a man called Nehemiah, or you're not going to speak about a man called Zerubbabel. Those are not going to be the great men that we will look up to. They're not going to be great men that we will look at. We will not even be able to look at people like, for example, the Maccabee brothers, which history tells us many things of what they did and how the revolt took place. But also books that have been taken out of our Bible. But we would not understand about these things because it was not something that they didn't want us to be able to have the depth of the understanding, for us to be able to understand the great work that you would do through just simple people. And this is what we understand about someone like Zerubbabel. This is how we understand about someone like Nehemiah, someone like Ezra. Just as we look at Daniel and we say, wow, Father used Daniel so mightily. But just as mightily as he used Daniel, so has he used these great servants of yours in the Bible, because they truly were servants. They didn't have titles like prophet, maybe, but they were servants whom you used very mightily and very powerfully in your word. And so I thank you, Father, that you will come and take us through these scriptures and take us through verse by verse and step by step as we go through this first Esdras, and that you just open up so that we can get the bigger revelation of that which you want to be able to reveal to us, because in every chapter there could be something that you wanting to speak that is for what you wanting to do in our lives in this time. Because you are wanting to raise up a people that are a nobodies, that are just simple servants of the Father, that you are wanting to raise up in this hour. Because you are raising up a bride that will be able to follow you, that will be able to look like you, that will be able to follow you, that is what you are wanting to raise up in this hour. And so, my Father, I just want to praise you and I just want to thank you that you will come and speak through my lips, speak to my mind and speak through my lips the very oracles that will come from you. I pray, Father, that you will open up the mind of our understanding. I pray, Father, that you will only put the words that you want to speak through my mouth, that I will speak. Put a coal of fire upon my tongue, Father, so that I will speak your word and your word only, and not my own understanding and my own mindset, but that which your word speaks, because it's the truth that sets us free. And it's the truth of your word that we need in this hour more than ever, to be able to come and expose all the deception that is going on in the world at the moment. It's your word that will be our foundation in this hour. So I praise and I thank you that you alone will be able to speak to us in Yeshua's name. Hallelujah. So we finished off, we actually finished off the teaching where I finished off the last chapter, chapter 1, and now I'm going to, I just read the first 2 verses of chapter 2, so I'm just going to start again in chapter 2, and then from there work our way through this book. And so let us read in chapter 2. And we read about King Cyrus. And so in the first year of Cyrus of Persia was emperor, Yahuwah made what he had said through the prophet Jeremiah come true. He prompted Cyrus to issue the following command and send it out in writing to be read aloud everywhere in his empire. So we know that in Isaiah chapter 45 verses 1 to 4, that this Isaiah had already prophesied about a king that was not going, even though he didn't know the Father. It says, even though you do not know me, but I have called you by name. And so Isaiah was already prophesying about King Cyrus way before he was even born. And then we have a look at Daniel chapter 10 from verses 1. In Daniel chapter 10, Daniel is fasting, and Daniel's coming up against the prince of Persia, that's the stronghold, because he had read in Jeremiah chapter 29 verses 10 that 70 years was up, where they now needed to be able to be released from captivity and return back to their land, because the land had to rest for 70 years, because the Father made sure that the fact that they had not kept the Shemitah, and the Shemitah is when the land needs to rest. Every 7th year, the land was told to rest. We read it in Leviticus chapter 25, where it talks about the Shemitah, where every 7th year, the land was to rest for that year. And for every year that the land did not rest, the Father put them into exile, so that he would make sure that that land had to rest, because they did not keep his word. So at the end of the day, the Father is very specific about the truth of his word. And so we look at verses 3 now, and this is where we see King Cyrus raising up, where he made this decree. And this is the command of Cyrus, emperor of Persia. Yahuwah of Israel, Yahuwah Most High, has appointed me ruler over the world, over the whole world, and he has given me the responsibility of building a temple for him in Jerusalem, in Yehudah. So you see, he was a Persian king. He was a king that was from the time of Persia. But he was going to be the one that was given the instruction that he was to be able to help the Jewish people build a temple. He was to help the Israelites that were going to have to return back to the land. He had to give the decree to say they were to return back to the land, and he was to be able to help them to build the temple. And so, may Yahuwah be with those of you who are his people. You are to go to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple of Yahuwah of Israel, and Yahuwah who lives in Jerusalem. If any of his people in exile need help to return, their neighbors must give them this help and provide them with silver and gold and other gifts, with horses and pack animals, as well as anything else offered for the temple of Yahuwah in Jerusalem in the fulfillment of a vow. Wow, what does this sound like? Do you know what this sounds like to me? This sounds like to me of when the Israelites were coming out of Egypt. And when they had to come out of Egypt, did they not go get the silver and the gold and all that they needed from the Egyptians that gave them their silver, their gold, and everything? When they left with the treasure that their slaves had put them into slavery, and they were paid out for all the years of slavery. They were paid out in the silver and the gold, because the wealth of the wicked was transferred to the righteous for that which the Father needed to do, which was to be able to build his temple. And that was going to be, in that time, it was the tabernacle that was going to be in the wilderness. They didn't need all this wealth. What did they need? The silver and the gold and whatever precious stones and whatever it was that these Egyptians gave them. These Egyptians willingly gave them all their stuff. But when they came out of Egypt, they came out with a wealth transfer. They didn't come out empty-handed. And this sounds exactly like to me that, the Father does it again. So they are going to go and build the Father's temple, but the king has issued a decree to say that even the neighbors around are to help these people. Whatever it is that they need, they are going to be given. They're going to need to reconstruct houses. They're going to need to reconstruct the temple. They're going to reconstruct everything. Because remember, the place was left in ruins. And they are returning. And so I see here again a wealth transfer. But what is it for? To build the Father's house, to build the Father's city, to build the Father's kingdom. Because it was not supposed to be for themselves. And this is what we're going to understand in Haggai. And why does he come up against them? So, then the heads of the clans of the tribes of Yehudah and Benjamin, the priests and the Levites, and everyone else whose heart Yahuwah had moved. Now understand, it's the heads of the tribes, of the clans of the tribes of Yehudah and Benjamin. Because remember, they would make up the house of Judah. Benjamin and Judah made up the house of Judah, which were the ones that really went to exile, and they were together with the Levites. But the other tribes had really gone into the dispersion. They had gone astray. They'd gone into Syria, and from there had already gone. They had already been, by this time, the Father has already divorced them. And the Levites and everyone else whose heart Yahuwah had moved. So understand, all those, even those that the Father would have moved in their hearts, that they wanted to return to Jerusalem, were allowed to return. Get ready to go and rebuild Yahuwah's temple in Jerusalem. Their neighbors helped them with everything, giving them silver, gold, horses, pack animals. Many of their neighbors were also led to give a large number of other things in fulfillment of vows. So you see, once again, they were like slaves. They weren't in the slavery. They weren't the slavery that was when they were in Egypt. But yet, they were taken into exile. And they had to start from scratch. They had nothing. They were the underdogs. They're the ones that arrived there in Babylon with nothing. And now the Father is going to restore to them. So do you think that the Father doesn't restore to us the years that the locusts have eaten? Father is in the restoration game. You cannot give up everything for the Father and think that He's not going to restore it to you. He did that with Job. And if we think that Job was the first one that He did it with the Israelites in the wilderness, and He's now doing it with the Israelites here. And so Cyrus gave them back the sacred utensils of King Nebuchadnezzar had taken from Jerusalem and had put in the temple of his idols. He brought them out and handed them over to the Mithridath, chief of the royal treasury, who delivered them to Sheshbazzar, the governor of Judah. Here is the inventory of the utensils. So there we see all the utensils, gold bowls, silver fire pans, small gold bowls, small silver bowls, other utensils. And so then we pick up verse 14. In all there were 5,469 gold and silver bowls and other utensils, and Sheshbazzar took these with him when he and other exiles went from Babylon to Jerusalem. So now we are going to read, this now that we're going to read is from Ezra 4, verses 7 to 24. So this is recorded in the actual book of Ezra from verses 7 to 24. In the reign of Emperor Artaxerxes of Persia, Bishlam, Mithridath, Tabeel, Rehum, Betlethamus, Shimshai, the secretary of the province, and their associates who lived in Samaria and elsewhere, wrote the following letter of protest against the Jews who were living in Yehudah and Jerusalem. So understand, the minute you start to walk into the promises of the Father, the minute you start to walk into that which the Father is wanting you to do, what do you think is going to come your way? The minute you want to be obedient to the Father and do what He's wanting you to do, the very first thing that's going to come your way is going to be the opposition. And the opposition will always come to be able to discredit that which the Father has said to you. So the devil will always come in many different ways, through different people, through different ways that can come to say, did the Father really say? Did the Father really say this? It's to discredit. So here is a decree that's been given, and now the decree is going to get discredited, because the minute we want to be obedient to the Father, the enemy will come with everything in his power to come up against you, so that you are not to fulfill the Father's plan. Remember, this is part of a decree that has already been made. This is part of a prophetic word that's already been given. There's a prophetic work that needs to be done for the Father by having to build this temple, by having to do all of this, because it had already been spoken with the prophets. And this has to be planned out. But what will the enemy do? The enemy tried to kill Messiah Yahushua, to abort what had to be done. And this is how the enemy comes up against us. Every time we want to take a step of obedience to the Father, the enemy will come with the opposition to stop you from being able to do, number one, being obedient to what the Father told you to do, and number two, to stop the plan that the Father has in that which He wants to do for His kingdom. So, listen to so we continue to read. So, to His Majesty Emperor Artaxerxes, from your servants the official correspondent Rehum, the secretary Shimshai, the other members of the council, and the judges of the greater Syria and Phoenicia. We want your majesty to know that the Jews who came here from your other territories have settled in Jerusalem, and they are building that evil and rebellious city. So you see, they see the city as being evil and rebellious. So what will be spoken of you, beloveds? What will be spoken of you? Will people not, the minute you want to be able to be obedient to the Father, what will they say of you? You're being rebellious because you don't want to submit. Or you're going on an evil path. They are restoring the marketplaces, repairing the walls, and laying the foundations for a temple. If this city is rebuilt and its walls are completed, the people will stop paying taxes and will rebel against the royal authority. So what do? They try and threaten you with, oh, you know what? It could just be that you're going to, be out of the Father's will, or otherwise, wait a second, you're not going to be able to get the accreditation that you should have, that people are going to speak up against you because of whatever it is that it's going to discredit you. And this is what happens. Because you see, now they are making a plan. So, like the devil will come and whisper in your ear, and, oh, but you can't do this. Because you know what, then the people are going to say this, and the people are going to do that, and then people succumb to the voices of the people as opposed to being obedient to the Father. What are people going to say? What are people going to think? And this is exactly what they are now using, this tactic, this very tactic now with the emperor. Since work on the temple has already begun, we considered it appropriate not to overlook such an important matter, but to bring it to the attention of your majesty. Then, if it seems proper to you, a search may be made in the records your ancestors kept. You will find information about these matters in the historical records, and you will discover that this city has always been rebellious and given trouble to other cities and kings. The Jews have used it from ancient times as a base for rebellion, for rebellious wars. That is why the city was destroyed. Was it really why the cities were destroyed? Or was the city destroyed because the Father allowed it to be destroyed because of their disobedience in going into constantly making allies with the neighbors? We therefore declare to you that if the city is rebuilt and its walls are restored, your majesty will no longer be able to enter greater Syria and Phoenicia. So you see, this is how the enemy comes. Now you've got to understand, beloveds, what are we doing? We are reading something to remind us of what's going to come ahead of us, because there's going to be accusations against us. There's going to be things that is going to come up against us so that we will be able to not be obedient to the Father. We understand that in Daniel because of the things that are going to be spoken, and it's the flatteries that are going to be spoken in the ears of the people, that the devil is going to come with those flatteries in the people's ears, and those flatteries are going to be able to say, oh, but you know what, you must not do this, and you must not say this, and you mustn't go there, and you mustn't do this, and you mustn't do that. It's the flatteries. And it's the flatteries that will take us out of the Father's will and out of what the Father wants, and out of the and from being obedient to the Father. It's the flatteries. And this is what we've got to understand, because this is exactly how it works with us. The minute, I tell you something, if there's anybody that has ever embarked on a journey to be able to do something for the Father, when they have clearly heard a word from the Father, there will be so much opposition that will come to just be obedient. Because why? On the other side of your obedience is a huge thing that's supposed to happen, that will come and set you free, that will come and set other people free, but the enemy will try and stop it. And so we've got a God for this. So why are we reading this? Why are we reading these books? We're not reading these books, beloveds, for just information. We are reading these books for us to be able to receive revelation of how the enemy works, how things work, what is happening. This is the reason why. So that we can understand that the Father will need leaders that are going to have to raise up, like a Zerubbabel, like a Nehemiah, in the face of opposition, to say, oh, what voice are we going to listen to now? That's what makes great leaders. That's what will make great leaders. Great leaders will not listen to the voice of the people, but listen to the voice of the Father. Because they have to stand by what the Father tells them, in the face of the opposition that will come their way. So it doesn't matter what the people are saying. What happened to Aaron when he listened to the voice of the people? He went and built him a golden calf. When Moses was no longer there. When Moses goes up the mountain, what happened to Aaron? He listened to the voice of the people. So, we continue to read. And the emperor sent the following answer to the official correspondent Rehum, Beltathumus, and the secretary Shimshai, and their associates who lived in Samaria, Syria, and Phoenicia. After reading the letter which you sent me, I gave orders for an investigation to be made, and it has indeed been found that from ancient times Jerusalem has revolted against royal authority. And its people have been involved in insurrections and wars. Powerful and cruel kings have reigned there and have ruled over Greater Syria and Phoenicia, from which they collected taxes. Therefore, I am now issuing orders that those men be prevented from rebuilding the city, and that necessary steps be taken to ensure that these orders will not be disobeyed, so that this troubled spot will no longer be a threat to the royal interests. As soon as this letter from Artaxerxes was read, Rehum, Shimshai, the secretary, and their associates hurried to Jerusalem. Oh, the devil just wants to run and put these things in your face. They hurried to Jerusalem with a force of cavalry and large number of armed troops and began interfering with the rebuilding of the temple. The work had to stop, and no more was done until the 2nd year of the reign of Darius, emperor of Persia. So this is what we've got to understand. The enemy will want to stop the Father's work in its tracks. And this is what we've got to understand. The enemy will always try and stop the work of the Father when it has to do with the kingdom. So when it's kingdom work, the enemy will come and he tries to put a stop to it. And now we get to this debate of the bodyguards before the emperor. Darius the emperor gave a great banquet. Now it's interesting because this is not written in the book of Ezra 1, and this is not written in Nehemiah, but this is written here. And so we have to see that the authenticity of this, and this is what they are speaking here, and we are going to see, did things normally happen like this or not? So Darius the emperor gave a great banquet for all those under him, all the members of his family and staff, all the leading officials of Persia and Media, All his official officers, administrators, and the governors of 127 provinces stretching from India to Sudan. When everyone had had enough to eat and drink, they left, and Darius went to bed. He fell asleep, but soon awoke. Then the 3 young men who served the Emperor Darius as his personal bodyguard said to one another, "Let each one of us name one thing that he considers the strongest thing in the world. The emperor will decide who has given the wisest answer to this question, and will give magnificent gifts and prizes to the winner. He will wear royal robes, drink from the gold cup, and sleep in the gold bed. He will have a chariot with gold-studded bridles, wear a fine linen turban, and have a golden necklace. Because of his wisdom, he will be an advisor to the emperor and will be given the title relative of the emperor." Now, have we seen this in Persia before? Have we seen this in scripture before? So if we go to the book of Daniel and we have a look at when King Belshazzar, when he is going to have a dream, and all of a sudden in this dream he sees this writing on the wall, and now he's puzzled, what is this writing on the wall? And no one is able to interpret this writing until his mother, the queen mother, heard the noise and made the king and his noblemen enter the banquet hall. I'm reading from Daniel chapter 5. And she tells him about this noble man in the kingdom. And he is a man that is a son of, he's one of the gods. He's one that serves the gods. So listen to what she says. The queen mother heard the noise, from verse 10, heard the noise and made by the king and his noblemen, and entered the banqueting hall. She said, "May your majesty live forever. Please do not be so disturbed and look so pale. There is a man in your kingdom who has the spirit of the holy gods." So he has the spirit of the holy gods. So they see this as being a man that has got a different spirit, obviously, in him. When your father was king, this man showed good sense and knowledge. So when you see this, you're going to go read now. Now he goes and he interprets the writing. And then by the time it comes to verse 16, it says, "And now I heard that you can find hidden meanings and explain mysteries. If you can read this writing and tell me what it means, you will be dressed in robes of royal purple, wear a gold chain of honor round your neck, and be the third in power in the kingdom." So this was a way that they would do things. Then, if we remember Esther, and if we remember the book of Esther, and in the book of Esther, do you remember in the book of Esther when Mordecai overhears 2 men, and these 2 men speaking, and they're plotting to kill the king. And Mordecai overhears it, and he goes and he reports it. And it gets written in the chronicles of the books. So we've just read how they went and fetched the writings of the books. And that was written. And one night, the king cannot sleep. And he goes, King Xerxes, he cannot sleep. And he goes and he reads the chronicles. And all of a sudden, he finds out about a man that saved his life and nobody said anything. And now he wants to honor this man. So what does he do? He speaks to Haman. And we are reading from Esther 6, from verse 6. And Haman came in, and the king said to him, "There is someone I wish very much to honor. What should I do for this man?" Haman thought to himself, "Now who could the king want to honor so much? Me, of course." So he answered, "The king ordered a royal robes to be brought for this man, robes that you yourselves wear. Order a royal ornament to be put on his own horse, and then get one of his highest noblemen to dress the man in these robes and lead him mounted on the horse through the city square. Let the noblemen announce as they go, see how the king rewards a person he wishes to honor. So here we see that this is a way that this was already from ancient times, that was already from Daniel's time, that this is what they used to do. Now, Esther was already from before Darius. So now we see that we're going to get to the contest. And the three men who were serving the Emperor Darius at his personal bodyguard said to one another, okay, we've read that, and he shall wear the royal robes. And then we go to verse 8. Then each of them wrote down the best answer he could think of, sealed it, and put it under the emperor's pillow. They said to one another, when the emperor wakes up, the statements will be given to him. He and the three leading officials of Persia will decide who gave the wisest answer. The winner will be given the prize on the basis of what he has written. The first wrote, there is nothing stronger than wine. The second wrote, there is nothing stronger than the emperor. And the third wrote, there is nothing stronger than a woman, but the truth can conquer anything. Then the emperor woke up. The written statement were given to him, and he read them. Then he sent messengers and called together all the leading officials of Persia and Media, including the chief officers, administrators, governors, and commissioners. He took his seat in the council chamber and had the three statements read aloud. Bring in the three young men, he said, and let them explain their answers. So when they were brought in, they were asked to explain what they had written. The speech about the wine. The bodyguard who had written about the strength of wine spoke first. Gentlemen, he began, wine is clearly the strongest thing in the world. It confuses the mind of everyone who drinks it. It has exactly the same effect on everyone, king or orphan, slave or free, rich or poor. It makes every thought happy and carefree, and makes one forget every sorrow and responsibility. It makes everyone feel rich, ignore the power of kings and officials, and talks as if he owned the whole world. When the men drink wine, they forget who their friends and their neighbors are, and then they are soon drawing their swords to fight them. Then when they sober up, they don't remember what they have done. Gentlemen, he finished by saying, if wine makes men act in this way, it certainly must be the strongest thing in the world. So, beloveds, if we read this, then it truly makes us understand that wine is not a good thing for us to have in our lives. If they can see it as something that's the strongest thing in the earth, can you imagine? No wonder that was the first sin that came into the world, was basically Noah becoming drunk. Through what? Through wine. That then got him to do what? The fact that he was now laying naked. The fact that now his son came and looked upon his nakedness. And then he goes and curses Canaan because of the fact that he looked upon his nakedness. But what was the first sin that came upon the earth after the new earth that the Father gave after the flood? Noah went and made himself a vineyard. And from that, he planted a vineyard. And from that vineyard, what came? Instead of him drinking the grape juice, the pure grape juice, he went and made himself fermented wine. And what came from there? The curse that came. The curse that came down from Canaan. So, the speech about the emperor. The bodyguard who had written about the strength of the emperor spoke next. Gentlemen, he began, nothing in the world is stronger than men, since they rule over land and sea, and in fact over everything in the world. But the emperor is the strongest of them all. He is their lord and master, and men obey him, no matter what he commands. You see, he is their lord and their master, because he's the landlord of everything. But now we want to use that same word in being able to use it as a title for the Father. If he tells them to make war on one another, they do it. If he sends them out against his enemies, they go. Even if they have to break down mountains, walls, or towers, they may kill or be killed, but they never disobey the emperor's orders. If they are victorious, they bring him all their loot and everything else that they have taken in battle. Farmers do not go out to war, but even they bring to the emperor a part of everything that they harvest, and they compel one another to pay taxes to the emperor. Although the emperor is only one man, if he orders people to kill, they kill. If he orders them to set prisoners free, they do it. If he orders them to attack, they do. If he orders destruction, they destroy. If he orders them to build, they build. If he orders crops to be destroyed or fields to be planted, it is done. Everybody, soldier or civilian, obeys the emperor. And when he sits down to eat or drink and then falls asleep, his servants stand guard round him, without being able to go and take care of their own affairs, for they never disobey him. Gentlemen, he ended by saying, since people obey the emperor like this, certainly nothing in this world is stronger than he is. The speech about woman. The bodyguard who had written about woman and the truth. It was Zerubbabel spoke last. Gentlemen, he began. The emperor is certainly powerful. Is certainly powerful. Men are numerous and wine is strong. But who rules and controls them all is woman. It is woman. Woman gave birth to the emperor and all men who rule over land and sea. Woman brought them into the world. Woman brought up men who planted the vineyards and which brought wine, from which wine comes. Woman makes clothes that men wear. Women bring honor to men. In fact, without woman, men couldn't live. Men may accumulate silver or gold or beautiful things, but if they see a woman with a pretty face or a good figure, they will leave it all to gape and stare, and they will desire her more than their wealth. A man will leave his own father who brought him up and leave his own country to get married. He will forget his father, his mother, his country to spend the rest of his life with his wife. So you must recognize that women are your masters. Don't you work and sweat and then take all that you have earned and give it to your wives? A man will take his sword and go out to attack, rob, steal, and sail the seas and rivers. He may have to face lions or travel in the dark, but when he has robbed, stolen, plundered, he will bring the loot home to the woman he loves. A man loves his wife more than his parents. Some men are driven out of their minds on account of a woman, and others become slaves for the sake of a woman. Others have been put to death, have ruined their lives, or have committed crimes because of a woman. So now, do you believe me? The emperor's power is certainly great. No nation has the courage to attack him. But once I saw him with Apame, his concubine, the daughter of the famous Artaxerxes, while she was sitting at the emperor's right. She took his crown off his head, put it on her own, and then slapped his face with her left hand. All the emperor did was look at her with his mouth open. Whenever she smiles at him, he smiles back, and when she gets angry with him, he flatters her and teases her until she's in a good mood again. Gentlemen, if women can do all that, surely there can be nothing stronger in the world. The emperor and his officials just looked at one another. The speech about truth. Then Zerubbabel began to speak about truth. Yes, gentlemen, he said, women are very strong, but think how big the earth is, how high the sky is. Think how fast the sun moves as it rapidly circles the whole sky in a single day. If the sun can do this, It's certainly great, but truth is greater and stronger than all these things. Everyone on earth honors truth. Heaven praises it. All creation trembles in awe before it. There is not the slightest injustice in truth. You will find injustice in wine, the emperor, woman, all human beings in all they do and in everything else. There is no truth in them. They are unjust and they will perish. But truth endures and is always strong. It will continue to live and reign forever. Truth shows no partiality or favoritism. It does what is right rather than what is unjust or evil. Everyone approves what truth does. Its decisions are always fair. Truth is strong, royal, powerful, majestic, forever. Let all things praise Yahuwah of truth. So there you go. He's standing before an emperor, and he's standing before an emperor just like Daniel had to stand before, when he had to stand before Nebuchadnezzar, when he had to stand before this king that he also stood before, Belteshazzar, when he stood before him. And yet at the end of the day, he had to be able to speak on behalf of the one whom he served. And here you see Zerubbabel standing, and all the others gave great answers, but Zerubbabel stood, and he elated and lifted up the greatest one that ever lived, the one who is truth himself, the one who is the creator of the heavens and the earth, and he exalted him. And so we go and we see in John chapter 1 that says, and the word became flesh and dwelt among us. Because why? Because he is the Spirit of truth. He is truth. He is the word. The word is the truth. And the truth became flesh and dwelt among us. And that is none other than our Messiah. And then if you go to John chapter 8, verse 31 and 32, it says, So Yeshua said to those Yehudim who believed him, if you stay in my word, you are truly my taught ones, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So you see, Yeshua came, and everything that he spoke was the truth. And it's only the truth of the word that is actually going to set us free. Because at the end of the day, it's truth. It's this truth of this word that is going to be able to set us free. And so if we go to John chapter 17, now let's look and see. John chapter 17, we're going to have to look at this, because this Zerubbabel has just spoken the most powerful message here, and he's going to get honored for this. And he had to speak this by the authority of the power of the Father in order for him to be able to bring about the release that was going to need to come, for them to be able to return to the land. So, look here. We go and read now in John chapter 17, and we're going to read from verses 17, and it says, set them apart in your truth. Your word is truth. So, beloveds, how are we trying to be set apart? How can a person be set apart if they are not set apart in the walking out of the truth of this word? So many people think that they are on a path becoming set apart. But if you don't walk out what this word says, then you're not becoming set apart. Because you can only become set apart when you are following the truth of the word. So if the Father gives a command in this Bible, and if the Father is speaking in this Bible, and this is what he says, he requires of us, then how do we become set apart? Beloveds, we are not becoming set apart because we happen to be in church every week and do, all the Bible studies that there is. You can have all the knowledge of the word. You can sit in church all you like. It's not going to make you holy. Because what truly makes you holy is when you put that truth into practice. Because you are being set apart in the truth that you will put into practice. It's the truth that sets us free. It's the truth that we start to walk out in our lives by being obedient to his spoken word, to his written word. I don't need to be able, you see, people will turn around and say to me, things that's already written in this Bible, like being able to keep his Sabbath, or being able to keep the feasts, or being able to eat clean, or whatever it is. The Father hasn't revealed that to me. It's not for me. Excuse me? If it's written in this word, and if it's a command that is already given, then it's not a matter of opinion. It's not a matter of opinion. It's not a thing to say, well, you know what, I will just play with this and just make it my opinion. Because it's that makes you set apart to the Father. But you see, we reason things in our mind. And we reason the word out of our mind. So we can be very learned with the word. We can be very versed in the word. We can stand on a pulpit and preach the most powerful message. But will we live it out? You see, there's the difference. Because the set apart ones that the Father is raising up now are the ones that are going to put the word into practice. That's the difference. So he turns around and he says, as you sent me into the world, I also send them into the world. And for them I set myself apart, so that they too might be set apart in truth. So how are we going to be holy? It's the truth that we are allowing to change our lives. That we are being transformed by the renewing of our mind, that we're being transformed by the renewing of our heart, that is transforming us to become set apart unto the Father. When you stand and you see, what does Ezra stand for? And why did Ezra put this in this book? Because that's what Ezra had to stand for. Ezra was a man that stood for the truth of the Father's word. He wasn't going to compromise on the truth of the Father's word. If that was the word, he was going to stand by it. And he wasn't going to go with what people were doing. He wasn't going to be moved by what people were doing. He was going to be moved by the truth of the word. And this is why already Zerubbabel is raising up and saying, it's truth. Because it's only the truth. If the truth is what the Father has already spoken, when they already knew that they had read the books of Jeremiah, and the truth was going to be that if he said that Jerusalem was going to have to be rebuilt, and they were going to return back to their land, that was the truth that they were holding on to, and he had to proclaim it out of his mouth, and he had to declare it out of his mouth, because that was what was going to be able to change the atmosphere for this king, for this emperor, to be able to allow them to go set free. So as he decreed it, as he proclaimed this is what Darius then has to do. Because then we are going to be able to get to when we see the response. When Zerubbabel had finished speaking, all the people shouted, "Truth is great! There is nothing stronger." Then the emperor said to him, "You may ask anything you want, even more than what was agreed, and I will give it to you. You will be my advisor, and you will be granted the title relative of the emperor." Zerubbabel replied, "Your Majesty, we will..." Okay, let me just finish this. Zerubbabel replied, "Your Majesty, permit me to remind you of the solemn vow you took on the day you became emperor. You promised to rebuild Jerusalem and to send back all the treasures that had been taken from the city. Remember what Remember that when Cyrus made a vow to destroy Babylon, he set things aside and solemnly promised to send them back to Jerusalem. You also promised to rebuild the temple, which the Edomites burned down when the Babylonians devastated the land of Judah. So, Your Majesty, because you are a man of generosity, I beg you to fulfill the promise you made to the King of Heaven. Then Darius the emperor stood up, kissed Zerubbabel, and wrote letters for him to all the treasurers, governors, and administrators in the provinces, ordering them to provide safe conduct for him and all those going with him to rebuild Jerusalem. He also wrote letters to all the governors in the greater Syria and Phoenicia, with special instructions to those in Lebanon, and to transport cedar logs to Jerusalem and help Zerubbabel rebuild the city. So, beloveds, you know, Zerubbabel could have sat there and imagined they're going to get this great title and they're going to be able to get all this big crown and whatever, this gold necklace around their necks. And now he stands in a competition. And he's going to say something so wayward in comparison to what all the others spoke. Did he fear? Did he decide to speak something that was going to impress the people, impress the emperor's ears, in order for him to be able to come and impress the emperor's ears like all the others, that one even said, the emperor is the greatest of it all, so that he could win the competition by saying it's the emperor? But Zerubbabel stood as a man, a servant of the Most High, Abba Yahuwah, that feared the one who created the heavens and the earth, and knew truth of his word, and proclaimed it out of his mouth, to bring into fulfillment that which was already prophesied in Jeremiah 29 verses 10, that had already been spoken by Daniel, that had already been spoken by Isaiah about a King Cyrus that came about. And Zerubbabel did not fear, but Zerubbabel stood and spoke the truth out of his mouth. And through him doing that, through him honoring Abba Yahuwah, through him not fearing, through him not bowing, just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did not bow to Nebuchadnezzar's statue. And this is a competition, but Zerubbabel stands. So we praise Abba Father for this beautiful account that shows us what does it mean to stand for truth. And that is why in the days ahead, it's the truth that we've got to stand for. It's truth that opens the doors, because it's truth that sets us free. So what is it that set them free? Truth. When he stood up, spoke truth. Truth set him free and set his people free. Praise Abba Yahuwah. We will continue next week. Abba Yahuwah bless you all. Shalom.